A little
Okay.
bit more. And a
Boom.
little bit.
Are
There
on?
we go.
Are we on?
We are on.
All right. Hi, Lisa.
Hi, Jordan. How are you?
I am fantastic.
Fantastic.
Yeah, well, listen, first of all, I want to say hello, Al, and welcome to another week of Showtime
Yes.
with Jordan Von Haslow
Yes.
and friends.
Yes.
And today, I have my good dear friend, the fantastic Lisa Gay, here in the studio today, and I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you.
I
I'm so
really-
glad to be here with you.
You know, can I tell you?
Yes.
It's so interesting. In all the time I know you, you're probably the only person I've ever met who, if your name comes up, everyone says, "Oh, Lisa, Lisa's so wonderful." I've never met, and I've been in show business all my life, I've never met anybody in the world who everybody loves.
Oh, that's beautiful for you to say. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Well, I wanted to talk about a lot of things,
know.
you know, but in the time since you agreed to come on,
Mm-hmm.
the whole world's gone topsy-turvy.
Yes, the whole world is watching. The whole world is watching, as they say.
Exactly, because I know you were supposed to be having a wonderful gig, another wonderful gig, which is at the dispensary.
The club at the Dispensary Jazz Lounge, you know, Las Vegas is really only pure jazz club. And then, of
Yeah.
course, we flip it around and have such a great time. Last Sunday before last, we had
That was a
jazz.
blast.
Yeah, created the jazz, just us, jazz, women on jazz, if you will, with Habaka and Mocha Blue and just a whole bunch of beautiful, beautiful folks that came on down, and we just had a fantastic time, house full, everybody just full of love. It was fantastic. And, of course, coming up on this Saturday was supposed to be my birthday celebration. Of course, I
Yeah.
celebrate my birthday all the time anyway, but the birthday celebration and with Lanny Counts, it was from the Santa Fe Horns.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, of course, with everything that's going on, we wanted to definitely make sure that we moved and grooved along to make sure that everybody's cool, everybody is safe. And so we decided to postpone it. So it's still happening.
It's just a matter of when.
It's just a matter
right?
of when. That's all. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
this is so strange. I was just telling E, who
Mm-hmm.
owns the station, and you as well, how I feel like every time I move to a new city, something huge happens. Like
Mm-hmm.
around the same time I was moving to New York was 9/11. When I moved, I was actually recruited. The way I went out to Los Angeles, I was recruited
Mm-hmm.
to go work for Sony Pictures. And about 3 months into my tenure, where I was building out this whole new thing,
Right.
the Sony hack
Right,
happened,
right.
and that was, a huge, now that's kind of become kind of like a ha 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 gossipy.
Sure,
The
sure,
studio
sure,
head was
sure.
making fun of Angelina
Sure.
Jolie, but at the time it was being treated as a terrorist attack because no one knew what happened.
Mm-hmm.
And now here I am in Vegas, and everything's over.
Unprecedented, as they all are saying over and over again. You know, we've never seen anything like that in this state, but
And,
and around the world.
Well, you know what's so interesting and unprecedented? Because living in other cities where major things have happened, as all of what's going on this week has been unfolding.
Right.
Everyone I've talked to, my friends in New York, my friends in
Right,
LA, they're just kind of like, oh, here we come. Whereas up until yesterday, I was still talking to people here, and they're like, well, what do you mean they're closing down the lounge? What do you mean?
Right.
Well, that's okay. I know this other place, they're offering free drinks. You want to go out to
I say yes, yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
But-
I'm sorry, go for
No,
it.
I was just going to say, but we just have to know that God is in control. We need to just keep very calm and just know the truth. And if you need to share a hot dog or a hot link, then that's what you do.
Yeah.
That's what you do.
Yeah.
That's what you do. And by putting all those wonderful prayers together, and again, just remaining calm is the most important thing. And everything will work itself out like it's done with so many things over so many years,
Yeah.
And from all the lifetime that we've had.
Ooh, hold on 1 second. We're getting feedback. Let's see what we can do about this feedback. Hold on. Oh, no. I think we dropped something. Hold on, and we're live. Hold on.
Okay.
So talk amongst
It stopped.
yourselves. Did
It stopped. Yes.
Is
it
it
stopped.
me?
It stopped.
Oh, good grief.
It stopped. But
There we go.
so if you've
Let's see.
muted something, you need to unmute.
Unmute it, right?
Unmute.
Let's see.
Yeah. Looks like.
Hello? Are we back on? I don't hear anything. Hold on. Good grief, Charlie Brown.
Coming back.
Are we coming back?
We're coming back a little bit.
All right, here we go.
We're
There we
coming back.
go.
There we are. Okay.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, we're
See,
back.
There we go. We're back. Okay, so I'm sorry. So as you were saying, you're like, it's just like things that have happened before and everything will always.
Right. Well, and we just have to be calm, and then we have to, just be tight with it. Just be tight with it, and just keep our eyes wide open, and just pay attention to what's going on. And during this time, I know for all of us in the entertainment world here, we are creative, and this entertainment family here is probably the tightest knit family that there is. And so I am so sure that rebounding in so many different ways is going to be even better than ever.
Totally. And can I say that that's actually something that I find so, like, the community here is so connected. And so, and maybe it's it's passively, but I've never been in an entertainment community that's so giving and warm and supportive of each other, and not like you're like, well, why is she over? Like, it's just bizarre.
Yeah,
it's like
fantastic.
Nothing. Like any other place I've ever been. Like you're like here, you're like, oh, that seems like an interesting place. Who does the booking? Oh, let me show you and introduce you. Whereas like you're like in New York or LA, it's like, oh, who does the booking at that club? Nobody.
Right, and I was fortunate enough to be here back in the 70s with Marilyn McCoo and Billy Davis Jr., of course, formerly of the Fifth Dimension. And my late husband, guitarist Tony Drake, who also was with them as the Fifth, and with Marilyn and Billy. In fact, he and I, the last year, Marilyn and Billy did their thing before they went separately to do some separate projects. We toured together for the last year. And so being here, obviously is a whole nother different thing than what it is now. But the changes that have gone about, Las Vegas has still remained strong and, resilient and coming back for more and more and more.
Yeah.
And people are going to depend on that. And when everything comes back together, it will blossom.
Totally. How long have you been in Vegas this go round?
It's 10 years now.
10 years now.
10 years now. And like I said, we performed here. But, of course, Tony performed here back with Della Reese and all those good folks back when. So, different things went on then. Another section went on then. Of course, the lounges and all the rest of that, all those beautiful acts and things were removed and whatnot. And we're going through this now. But I think that the entertainment community here is tighter and more bountiful than ever.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so you came here like full time about 10 years ago when you started in Los Angeles, right? You're one of those like purple unicorns, like a native Angelina, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. Los Angeles, love Los Angeles. Born and raised in Los Angeles in the Crenshaw District. During the time that the Crenshaw District was basically Asian community, which a lot of people don't know that. I mean, we had a lot of celebrities that lived in the neighborhood, as was the point of my parents and grandparents who lived off in Central Avenue, which was the hub for Negroes at that time. And then after the war, quite naturally, then everybody came over because you were able to own a home at that point, allowed to own a home at that point. And then my parents and so many others came, my cousins, they built their home up in View Park. And then so many celebrities that were there, Ray Charles and Nancy Wilson, Ike and Tina Turner, and so forth and so on. But it made just a huge community that was absolutely fantastic. It had its had its moments like anything else, but it was so diverse.
Right.
And Los Angeles was a whole nother different ball game anyway.
Well, and that's what I kind of wonder, because like coming from New York and even Chicago, like there's a lot of sort of like here there's like live music everywhere.
Sure.
And I, in the time that I've lived in Los Angeles. I find like kind of outside of like the rock world and like the singer-songwriter community, there's not a lot of jazz, there's not a lot of like cabaret, there's not a lot. You kind of have to seek it out. It's like all that went away. Right.
All that went away because all that started in Central Avenue.
Right.
All of it started in Central Avenue from Nat Cole and everybody else. All that started, Nellie Lutcher, people like that. All that started there. And of course, along with that was the Black Musicians Union at the time. And later on, people like Nellie Lutcher and others helped to merge the black and the white musicians union, like the Shriners and so forth and so on, because you had Eastern Star and all those other groups that were there to make the community happen, and all those pieces came together. And then you had places like Dudos during the war, where everybody would go to the Club Alabama, the Hotel Dunbar, and all the rest of those places that folks would go to. And then again, after the war and everybody migrated, then we had clubs a go-go, which, by the way, were overseen by the union, believe it or not,
really?
at that time. Oh, yeah.
Interesting.
And then tons of musicians, like my husband, too, were recruited by the record companies.
That's so interesting
Yeah.
that the clubs
yeah.
were there had
Clubs
to
were
be some
union.
kind of like a real conflict of interest there in terms of like getting booked and who gets booked,
Well,
and like if you piss
the
off
club
the head
owners.
of it.
Well, the club owners were the ones who were responsible. They were also responsible for you to make sure that you were not underage and all the rest of that.
Oh, right,
and
right.
then, the first club I worked
You
with,
mean
they
like
had-
they were just all under union jurisdiction?
Not all of them, but a lot of them were under
I thought you meant like the
jurisdiction.
union was running the club.
No,
That's
no,
why I
no,
was
no,
like,
no,
that
no,
seems
no,
like
no,
a
no.
little.
They were, but they had to follow the guidelines, for that.
Yeah.
And then highway patrol police and all that, who would actually come into the clubs.
Right.
The first club I was in, they would actually come into the clubs and actually go around and check and make sure that no one was underage.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's so interesting.
On and on. But there were clubs a go-go. You're talking about Maverick Flat, the Pied Piper, Total Experience, Amber Light, Diamond Head, my goodness, we had, which is a post office now, was the Parisian Room. People like Joe Williams, Etta James, and all them would play. So
Yeah.
it was, Marla's Memory. I mean, so many different, it had its own hubbub, if you will, during that time. And then, of course, later on, as time moved on, disco came in. Well, for people like my husband, and now, they were recording, so they were cool, all the way through. But it definitely had an impact on the clubs. Unions pulled out of that
Right.
far before all that happened. But it changed dramatically, and then club owners started either pulling out, selling, and all of that started going away.
Yeah.
You see. So if you weren't going out on tour or doing that, then you just had the regular smaller clubs that people would go, like Dodger Club and some other places that people would go to. And that's outside of Hollywood, where you had the Roxy and the Whiskey,
Right.
Troubadour, and of course I can't mention Los Angeles without saying Shelley's Manhole. Fantastic. Shelley's Manhole, yeah.
So what was your first, your first professional gig? Like what was the first thing that kind of launched your career?
Well, actually, it was interesting because there were so many different opportunities that came out, but I was in a girl group called Cool Ice.
Okay.
And it was myself and Debbie Coave and Corla Weigo, and we had a great time because we would go out and do talent contests
Okay.
when we got together, because our harmony was pristine. So we would go out and we would get into these talent contests and we'd win. And back in those days, you would receive a paid weekend gig.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, that was real cool.
Yeah.
And I mean, we went up against some serious competition. And then, the bands were like 10 pieces, 10 pieces and all the rest of that other good stuff going on. So when you went into every club and then everybody was dressed in uniforms and they're doing all their and it was, it was
Yeah,
huge.
you're like, oh,
yeah.
yeah.
But out of that experience, later on down the line through Debbie, I was able to meet a gentleman by the name of Richard T.
Okay.
The late Richard T. from New York, out of New York. And Richie is one of the premier keyboardists. If you look at anything from New York City Girl and all the rest of that good stuff, Roberta Flack, Donny Hathaway, oh my God, Quincy, Paul Simon, there's just so much. But he was the man, so to speak, that was part of the group called Stuff out of
Okay.
New York, and they did Bottom Line, McHale's, and all the rest of it. But they were the group that would travel. Steve Gadd, Cornell Dupree, Eric Gale. I mean, it just kind of moves on and on and on. And from that experience, I was able to have my first session at A&M Records.
Okay.
With Chuck
On La
Rainey.
Brea, right?
Chuck Rainey.
Is that the old A&M Studios is the
The
Jim
original,
Henson, right? It's like
right,
where the Jim
right,
Henson is right now.
right. The original studio, that was Charlie Chaplin's originally. It was Charlie Chaplin's and all the way on down the line. And ironically, there was a club across the street as well, which a group played, and eventually they got a hit too. A couple of hits, come to think about it, Taste of Honey.
Oh.
So we had a lot of groups that came out of Los Angeles, whether it be Crusaders, Silvers, and on and on. But that was that was a huge turning point to be able to be in A&M Records. A&M Records was
so
like
you're just like a
college.
staff session singer
I
there?
had and then I became a background singer, and then I went out. I was fortunate enough to go out with Letta Mbulu, who is South Africa's beautiful, beautiful queen. He used to sing behind Miriam Makeba and so many others. But she was produced by Herb Alford at the time, and we traveled. And one of the amazing gigs we did was opening for Minnie Riperton.
Oh, how fun.
You know, I mean, just all sorts of things. But from that experience and more experiences in between that, being able to be inducted with Marilyn McCoo and Billy Davis Jr. by way of Gail Diedrich, who, of course, was the recently the musical director for Natalie Cole for 15 years and won a Grammy with her as well. And so that was just absolutely huge, because those were just fantastic years of really, really traveling and watching two pros.
Yeah.
And in fact, they're scheduled, you know, to come back in April for their show here at the Orleans.
Oh, yeah.
So they, you know, so and
Well,
the other
hopefully,
things that
knock
branched
on
out,
wood.
knock on wood, right? And so, you know, with all of that, and then branching out, and then of course Tony, you know, in the mix as well, you know, later on down the line, and recording our CD, our first CD, Watch What Happens, which is on CD Baby and also on Amazon.
Yeah.
And then going around and touring with him. And then we also had a 9-piece band, which included Mark Cargill, violinist Mark Cargill, who is the concert master for Lady Gaga, for example.
There you go.
And we just had a great time. So when we came back to Las Vegas, we ended up creating our own jazz and soul venue at Alexis Park.
Okay. That's a lovely venue.
Yeah,
I love
Alexis
that
Park in
little
the
room.
Pegasus room,
Yeah.
which I was able to, you know, kind of fast forwarding here this past year, bringing my show that I wrote, which is Lisa's Living Room, which was going to be the other opening standard, which will be when we come back to the dispensary, because that'll be the home for Lisa's Living Room.
Yeah, that's exciting. And can I tell you, I love the dispensary. So I had only been in there, I think, one time, and it's just so, it's like otherworldly. Like I remember walking through, they have like the saloon doors, and it's like,
Don't hit yourself
who
on
the
the
hell, wall-to-wall carpeting? What is going on? But it does. It feels
Right?
like a living room. Like it feels
like a living
we've
room.
stepped back into 1978, and Lisa's having a rent party in her den in the basement.
right.
And
Oh,
the
it's great.
drinks are flowing, and the
Yes.
jukebox. You know, like I think it's a really special place.
Campy.
Yeah.
Very campy.
Yeah.
Very campy. Adele Bellis has had that wonderful spot for 40 years.
Oh, wow.
And then with
And has it always been jazz that entire time, or has
actually Uli Geisendorfer and people like Michelle Johnson and Karen Jones and Joe Bell, and all were a part of the beginnings of that. And Uli is the curator of that whole piece. And it's so great because of the fact when people first come in there, they go, "Oh my goodness." This is so cool, right? It's so cool, and I think if it were larger, it wouldn't have the same glow to it, so to speak. and the
That's what
same
it is.
energies.
It feels like you're at a house party.
And it's one of the few places too here that you can actually, like I'm usually the 10 to 2, 10 to 2 folk, and there's a few places that you really go, and then they have the finest burgers and bar food that you
Yeah, that burger
right?
is really, really good.
Listen, Patty. And the cocktails are just fantastic. They're real cocktails. They're not drinks. They're real cocktails. And with all of that, you never know who's going to, fly through or whatever the case may be. But it is truly a beautiful place. And jazz, as far as jazz is concerned, all jazz lovers, head on down to the dispensary. You got the Wednesday night, you got the Friday and Saturday night, and then, a couple of Sundays as well. You have like Joe Darrow and Michael Delaney and all them in there doing the really, really cool old jazz and whatnot. Yeah. And then all of us progressive jazz, UNLV, all the beautiful jazz, and I'll call them artists because that's what they are, that are in there, and traveling artists as well that come through there. And then, you never know, jam sessions that come on with Dionne Warwick's crew or Lady Gaga's crew, just random.
Folks just walk in and it's like...
Yeah, and it's a musician's haven. That's what it is, a musician's haven, and everyone who comes in there leaves out with a huge smile on their face.
That's because they're drunk. At least that was my case when I was there last week. You're so like chill. Like you're such a zen person. You're such a go with the flow person. Were you, as far as just how you approached your career, you know, just from the moment you started performing, did you kind of like start like, okay, this is what I want to do, or have you always just been kind of like, oh, this seems cool, let's try this?
Well, you know, growing up in elementary school, as we came up, music and arts were the thing, and sport, everything. So you did everything, and you know, I was playing cello in the 3rd grade. I played that for 4 years. I played guitar for 3 years. I played ukulele up until now. I still play the ukulele a little bit.
Really?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. My 6th grade teacher, Miss Dr. Kilgore. I'll never forget him. And so on some of the gigs, then I would, you know, play, you know, the ukulele, and then Tony, of course, would make me look real good because, you know, all I had to do was play chords, and there he was. And it's the same thing with acoustic guitar as well. So I'm, you know, cut nails and kind of working out a few things because I really want to bring that back to my shows as well.
Fun.
Playing. Yeah.
How
yeah.
fun.
So
The
I'm working.
ukulele.
So while we're off too, I'm working on that as well. By the way, and you know, I keep threatening to do it, and like Lily says, you threatening to do that? I said, you're threatening to do it. So we have a great time, but the arts and everything else was the thing, and so everything from there to bells to a choir in junior high school, where it was great because we did a lot of Broadway show type of things, you know, Music Man, Peter Pan, and all that, because we were in the choir and we sang behind, you know, underneath behind the acting and all that, and it was great, the plays and whatnot. And then going to high school at Hamilton High School, hey, Hammy High, all right, in madrigals. And then I ended up.
I used to love madrigals.
Oh yeah,
I
madrigals
was in arts
was
high
fun.
school, and I remember every year we would do like a whole. I always had so much fun.
Madrigals was real cool. And then after that, graduating, and then I went to Pitzer College.
Okay.
In Claremont colleges, and I was in concert choir. It was a 100-person concert choir.
Oh, wow.
And one day I decided, because I had been out to the clubs and sang the clubs a couple of times, so I crossed my legs on the break and I said, you know, maybe I want to go and work some clubs. So I went home and told my parents that on the break. They had just paid for my semester at that time. Like $5,000, which in 1975, that was a little bit of money. They both looked at me. My daddy got up. He got up, fixed himself a nice bourbon, sat down, crossed his legs, and he said, well, is this something you think you can do? I said, yeah, Daddy. I said, I really want to go and work these clubs. My mother was just like, oh, my God. My mother was a teacher as well. She said, oh, my God. And which, that's what I wanted to be, was a teacher. That's what I went to school for. And then
a music teacher? Or just
teacher.
Okay.
Yeah, teacher. General teacher. And she looked at my dad and she said, well, James, she said, well, I'll tell you what, you need to at least continue education. You come back up here and continue the education and all the rest of that. And he said, then you can do that and venture. My parents were the type that always believed to supporting us in whatever we wanted to do and to find our own way in life. And whether it was good, bad, or indifferent, or like my dad said, you get to that fire and try to touch it, you're going to burn. So just remember that. Remember that. And, you know, and as time went along and being in groups and everything else, it was an amazing experience. In fact, my first group band was with a gentleman by the name of James Bigby, who was one of the first original drummers for the Jackson 5 when they came out here.
Oh, wow.
James was great. And I also, some of the members in the band were the early members of Hiroshima.
Oh, really?
Eugene Hamayasu and Chris and all those guys and Dave and all the rest of who Dave is still there, and Iwataki. And from that experience, and then the clubs and everything else, you know, it was one thing, another thing, this, and that. And then we also traveled with the Cool Ice Group with a gentleman by the name of Michael Peterson out of Chicago. Okay. Michael Peterson was, his AKA was Mr. Aretha Franklin.
Okay.
And Michael was born the same day as Aretha, had the facial features of Aretha, and could soar like Aretha.
Oh, wow.
Oh, she was amazing. He and Sylvester were good buddies during that whole period.
Yeah.
And being with Michael was a whole nother different thing because we did special shows with the Ebony or this or that or so forth and so on. And then we did Chuck Barris's The Gong Show.
Really?
The Gong Show, when the Gong Show came
Can we
out.
find that on YouTube?
No. In fact, we ran so that we could actually, when they taped it, and we actually ran so we could actually watch it on television, right? You know what I mean? In those days, you know, it was
I
like
wonder.
that.
Now I gotta do some
The
research.
Gong Show.
We're
it
gonna
was
do some
fantastic.
research. We're gonna. Did you get gonged?
No, we won. We won. And $333.35, so whatever it was, then we all split it 4 ways.
How fun.
Yeah, it was
I think
great.
they need to revive the Gong
It was
Show.
great.
Because they do like all the like American Idol and all
Right.
of the whatchamacallit
Right.
where it's about like I think it would just be fun to be like, yeah, no.
Right? It was its own. It was its own experience, and then we also had the opportunity to work with a gentleman by the name of Phil Moore Jr.
What was your name of your group when you were on the Gong
Cool
Show?
Ice.
Cool Ice.
Cool Ice.
I'm gonna
Cool
track
Ice.
this thing down.
Oh, we had a great time. We did a lot of great things. We did sessions over at A&amp as well.
Yeah.
And for various folks, and then of course, then later on down the line, then I made my own little staple around there, and it was A&amp though was just an actually huge experience. You're walking down the hallway and you bump into George Harrison. Hi, how you doing? Everything is good. Blah blah. And you go around the studio and you turn the corner, and and you just never know. And of course, to experience that was its own thing,
Totally.
all by itself. And to be under that banner was amazing. And Tony, of course, was a studio musician there for many, many years. And he also, of course, did a lot of television, the Diane Carroll show, the Lucille Ball show, the Leslie Nielsen show. He was, a part of all that good stuff. Yeah. And then, of course, and then with the big bands, which these were the experiences that he would show and teach me because of being a part of band leader and doing this and doing that and so forth and so on. And so he was the first chair who took over for Freddie Green when he passed, which was with Count Basie, with the Count. And then, of course, the great H.B. Barnum Band, which, of course, backed Aretha, and others as well, but primarily with her. And then Ray Charles Orchestra, of course. And just so many things. So from all his experience and as a musical director for the Silvers and the Honeycombs as well. Well, and a young man singer for you. That whole thing. Those experiences, he called me from Africa because I was working retail because I had 20 years also in, by the way, retail experience as an operation manager.
Oh, yeah.
Old Robinsons, Nordstrom, Macy's, Tommy Hilfiger, opening and closing stores and doing all that wild stuff. I said, I'm just going to, right?
That really translates into everything you
does.
do, opening and closing in different cities, and in different clubs.
Absolutely. It was just, that retail experience was absolutely great too as well. But anyway, so I'm sitting in my office and he calls me from Africa. Because he's on his second world tour with Barry White. Okay. And he says, you know what? I think it's about time for you to start recording your own stuff. You need to jump up and be lead now. All that background is good, but you can do this. And he said, because I'm your biggest fan.
Oh my God! Are you guys married at the time yet? Or no?
No, we were not married. We were not married at the time. But he and Mark Cargill and Greg Cook got in there at studio with me and brought in all their partners, this and that, back and forth. And I was just totally elated for one of the pieces when they brought in Brenda Lee Ager, who was with Jerry Butler. Okay. And also Pat and Bob Henley, the Henleys who were with Smokey Robinson for Cruising and all that good stuff many, many years. And, of course, Brenda Lee is just amazing. She and Patty right now have their own show in Los Angeles, and they're traveling with their show as well because they were a part with the.
Well, at least they were traveling until yesterday.
Probably until yesterday. But they were the first group that was put together for Jesse Jackson's Operation Push convention and a part of the civil rights movement. Right. So those two are huge, and I hope to bring them here to do their thing too. As,
that would be cool.
Yeah, as part of my Just Us Women on Jazz series that I just started. I'm so excited about that. But those different experiences, and of course, we, Marilyn Billy and recording things with Joe Cocker and just being in that business thing. And then also the flip side of it when the business went boom, and it was Michael Jackson who took it and revived it.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Care to elaborate?
from the 81 period.
So like what? So talk to me about like what went boom and what was it that
Well,
changed?
there was a massive change in music because at that time, now you're talking kind of
because all of a sudden everything becomes
pre-rock
electronic
and all that,
like
yeah,
like
and that whole piece, yeah, all that started coming into play. Even though, of course, we had the Last Poets, and,
right. Totally. But you went from like, oh, I need 9 musicians to I need a synth player and
no,
a guitarist,
you know, you get from that and then a lot of people did not have gigs and there were no clubs.
Right.
The clubs were about just totally gone at that point.
Yeah.
So there was nothing really to fall back on. So if you wanted to do something, you better go to work.
Right.
Just kind of like it is now, because of the fact that you have to have something else as well, unless you're doing something consistent or your television or movies
Right.
or whatever the case may be.
Which is something else,
Right,
right?
which
Like,
is-
yeah,
right.
you have the thing, and my day job
Right.
is my sitcom.
Exactly. right. Exactly. Right. So you moved and grooved and did all parts of that. But when Michael came out, he set the bar because of course MTV at that time did not want to play Michael, even though Michael was the hottest thing out there. But they
Right.
just had their way and they just didn't want to do it. And so it was like, well, okay, well, we'll do this. And eventually it was like Michael, they had to open the doors to him regardless,
Right.
And then at that time, then Michael says, like he had done with so many other people, everybody has something to say about Michael, but Michael Jackson helped so many people.
Yeah.
Especially entertainers and people getting cataloged. But anyway, so with him coming back and doing all of that, he told him, he said, I'll tell you what, you can have me, but you need to bring in these other artists too.
Okay.
Or I'll just go back and do what I'm doing.
Right.
And thank God for that, because it made MTV and VH1, BT, all that rise.
Right.
Totally rise, if you will.
Yeah.
And I tell portions of that story too, because I'm also the entertainment coordinator for the Liberace Foundation here in Las Vegas as well. CEO is Jonathan Warren, and I bring that up too because that's a whole nother different thing that I do as well with tours and everything else. But the history of him and Michael
Yeah.
are together because all the Liberace, not all.
Oh, well, like
he's got
the
tons.
museum is like in Michael's old house, or like
Correct,
right? Is the
correct.
house in-
As they called it, the Thriller Villa and all the rest of that. But it's Rancho Palomino. And in the house there, it's a fabulous, fabulous tour. And we talk about Michael. We talk about Liberace. In fact, there are some pieces of Michael's that are there. So there's an intertwined type of story, plus the original owner himself, who actually was an audio-visual man. You got to come to
So
the
yeah, I
tour
was
to
going
hear
to
it
say
all.
2 questions for you.
You gotta
One, how
have-
did you
come to
become
the
involved
tour.
with the Liberace Foundation? And 2, why the hell have I not been there yet?
Well, let me tell you this. Jonathan Warren, are you listening? Being
Hi,
the
Jonathan.
Jonathan Warren, if you're listening, the fact that Jonathan would come to Alexis Park. We had a lot of people that came to Alexis Park.
Okay.
And he came.
Yes, that calling card, having that calling card, that steady
It was
regular
fantastic.
gig is
Right.
very important.
Exactly. And, we had the Thursday night musicians apiece. Dave Rico was one of them as well, who came and helped start it, kick it off. And then Friday nights we had Arch Night, Classic Soul and Jazz. And then on Saturday nights, the fabulous Rick Arroyo. Hey, Rick.
Hi,
Who
Rick.
brought his Latin group in there, and just Alex Leon and all that. And they were just fantastic. I mean, that place was just packed to the max on Saturday night. So anyway, so we, with all of that other good stuff, we really had a great time.
Yeah.
No telling. But anyway, Jonathan would come down as well. So that's how we met, along with Robert Conte, who endorsed Tony with his Conte guitar, and it was pretty like nonstop. With people coming in and hanging out and doing that, because we had the dancing going on and all the, it was just a beautiful, fun place. So when I went, again, picking back, when I went back to the Pegasus to do Lisa's Living Room, bringing back so many memories and all the rest of that. But Tony was very kind, very patient, very loving, but so insightful, because his workings with Etta James and Della Reese and Lou Rawls and Tina Turner and, just Retha and, so many different female artists.
Right.
I want to say, I just got to put that in there. And so, being able, Carmen McCrae, he would be able to really, really help me focus on certain things.
Got it.
And but pretty much just let me go. He said, because you see, you got to feel all this. You're going to feel all this because the guitar is a part of me. See how I breathe when I play I'm breathing. And but we had a great time. And of course, coming up on April 16th is the passing, the birth and passing of him. He would have been gone for 5 years now.
Wow.
Yeah. But all the energies and all the charts, and I know Uli and everybody else is like, oh my God, her in these charts. But having that and having that support, that love, and that history, all of that combined together has been able for me to be even more creative now.
Totally. And are these the charts that he would use with other artists, or are these just charts that
Our
he
charts.
Your
Our
charts,
charts,
your charts
yeah,
with him?
yeah,
Okay, got it.
charts with, yeah, and we'd have with Greg Cook and all the rest of that other good stuff. And it was just so... it was so incredibly amazing because every time I get ready to sit down and look at all of that and say where I'm going, I always say, "Hey, honey, you want to help me?" And he's eating the pork. He's on my shoulder eating popcorn, going, "You know what to do, booby. You know what to do." He's calling me booby. You know what to do. You know what to do. And it just his spirit and his aura and his coolness and his humor and everything else just puts it and sparks me and keeps me upright because, of course. 2 years ago, I was diagnosed with a stage 4 cancer.
Yeah.
And, had the tumor, had all that removed, and all the rest of that. And so, and I'm getting to a point because I just want to say to everybody, again, you never be afraid to live, like my grandfather said. And in fact, when I was coming out of recovery and the surgeons were saying, because they had told my brother earlier, she might not make it because of this tumor.
Right.
So, and of course, my brother was like, what? And then they told me, they said, now that, we're out and this is what's going on, they said, you have stage 4 cancer. I said, really? And they said, yeah, really? Stage 4 cancer. And I said, okay. And then I talk about going up to heaven and knocking on the door, because it was a door, it wasn't a gate. It was a door. Opening the door, and Tony's standing there. The anesthesia must have been out of sight. And so I said,
oh my goodness.
We did it again.
Oh, we did it again. You know what I think that is?
We did it again.
Oh, that's what it is.
We did it
What's
again.
that?
Oh, it's okay. Anyway, make a long story short. So he knocked on the door, and so he said that he's eating his popcorn. That was our running thing during his popcorn. And then I said to him, oh, honey, I'm here, blah, blah, blah. So he said, well, where's JoJo? JoJo's our dog, our last dog of 4 dogs we had, that he named, by the way. And I said, well, I didn't know. Well, I can't go back. He said, no, you have to go back. He said, you have to go back because you must let the people know that love is always there.
Yeah.
You have to spread that love, booby. You got to go back. And God was behind me. That's enough. Shut the door. So Tony just shuts the door in my face, and I'm like, what? And I wake up, and they're all around me, and they're telling me about this cancer and all this stuff. So I say to them, by the way, if I can make it through my husband's passing, I think this cancer thing, what are we going to do next?
Right.
And everybody kind of looked at each other. And, and I went through the 8 chemos and all the rest and all the stuff that goes on with that. But, it's all about the spirit, just like what it is right now. Right now, it's about the spirit.
Yeah.
It's about keeping smiling. You got to, like Smile, when Charlie Chaplin, when he wrote the song Smile, and Nat Cole just presented it with all the power and love that it deserved, and I recorded that as well.
Yeah.
It just spoke, and continues to speak to me. So when people say, oh, you got energy, you got this and that, and I say, yeah, you lose the hair, you do this, you go through all these changes. And so in coming back, taking the time to come back, and all the loving people who were around me was just incredible. And I take that energy, I take that love and the spirit of everybody ahead, behind, who were before me and whatnot. And then Tony always on my shoulder. And I tell people, like he always said, it's going to be cool. It's all going to be cool. But you got to sit back and relax and just know the truth, as my mother used to always say.
Yeah.
And which is so very important. And, when it's your time to go, you're going to go.
Totally.
I don't care where you are, what you're doing. So put that out your mind. And during this time, not only you can be creating everything and enjoying your kids and the dogs and the horses and the cat and the snake or whatever you got, But you just need to know the truth. And you know that stress, the main factor of stress is to be stressed out. Don't be stressed out. Don't do that. Don't be stressed out. Just go ahead and just do your thing. Work with what you got. Go get that hot link. That's right. Go get that hot link. Get you a bowl of soup. You'll be nourished. You'll be nourished. You'll be cool. And then just live life.
Yeah.
Live it. Live it.
Yeah.
Live it, honey. Live it, honey. It's yours to live, honey, and it's yours to give away.
Totally.
See,
Yeah.
if you don't mess around and do all the rest of that. So I just in as far as when people talk about, well, what's the career and everything, I said, I really don't know, because when I wake up, I just think about creating different things. And so now I'm kind of getting on that role of this and that. And when we do come back, we've got that. And then we've also have, quite naturally, like I was saying, the Just Us, the Women on Jazz.
Right.
And, of course, Lisa's Living Room will be happening. And then also with Jonathan Scott. Jonathan, are you listening? Jonathan, with Jonathan Scott, Guitars in Heaven. Guitars in Heaven, which honors our veterans. Tony is the byproduct of all the rest of that good stuff in its own sense, but we were able to produce a show at Harris with the huge thank to Kathy and Alan Gliss, who gave us the beautiful menopause room to do this.
Oh, wonderful.
We were just so appreciative of them. If you're listening, so appreciative of them. And then and we had Clint Holmes and the Bronx Wanderers and Frankie Shinta and
everybody.
I mean,
it was
it was just Jason, all those guys from Prince and all French tribute, and it was just so amazing. And and what's so ironic about that is because I had just had gone through my second chemo.
Okay.
And my hair was full, but it was ready to fall out. And I put all this spritz in my hair.
Oh, no.
Right? I was so spritzed. I mean, it was like wire. And then I said to myself, okay. I said, if it would just stay there for this.
For the night.
Just for night. Just for night. Just hang out with me one little bit longer. And then the next morning I got up and I put that shampoo in my hair and it all came out in one wop.
Oh, wow.
All of it just came. I said, okay. And I just, all of it. And then I was shaved and smooth. But yet, it's all come back.
Yeah.
All my baby hair and everything, all that stuff has come back. And so we will come back, too.
Yeah.
We shall come back. We will always come back. But we have to be together. I always say, united we stand, divided we fall.
Yeah.
And when people talk about, well, stay home and do this, all these fancy phones, now we can do the Facebook stuff. We can all talk to each other and everything else. So, we can all still communicate and stay together and
create.
And also create love.
Mm-hmm.
Create love. Put your hands together and create some love while we're here, because that's the only thing that's going to see us through, period. And everybody else who wants to talk that talk and this and that and blah, 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 and propaganda, blah, 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 doesn't make any difference. We're man-made, but we are in God's light, and we are children of God. And we have to remember that. We do have that spirit in us, right? We really do. And that's what I'm looking forward and seeing happening. And as we, move along these uncertain times, you don't know. You can only take care of today. Tomorrow will take care of itself.
This is true.
Yeah, it'll take care of itself.
True.
So you have to do it. So.
And that's all you can do. So, so you've done a lot of different things, right? You've had your own in Vegas. You've done the session thing. You've gone to teaching school. You've worked in retail. Is there something that you've like, oh, you know what? I still never cut that off my bucket list, and it's something that I I planned on doing that, and then life happens, and then it's like, I really
well I want to fit in one piece too, before that too, that Tony and I were also mental health, and I'm still certified as a mental health provider in basic skills training, and also with horse therapy. As Tony and
Horse therapy, like,
absolutely. I'm talking about horse therapy.
Really?
Absolutely. Triggering everybody, absolutely. There are a lot of nonprofit or self-funded here in Nevada that offer volunteers to come and help with the horses. And we have tons and tons of horses in Nevada, of course, the Mustangs and whatnot. But therapy is amazing with horses. And a horse can listen to you, knows all your thoughts, and can tell you exactly which way to go and what to do if you just listen. We would do a little exercise where we would take balls, and we would have balls, and you ride them. You say happy, sad, this and that, and you throw like 10 balls out. And you'd ask whether it be a 4-year-old or a 100-year-old client, and you'd say, "Go ahead, go pick a ball." And then they would go and look and pick a ball. Then you ask the horse. The horse would go and pick a ball, because the horses go through a piece of training and all the rest of that other good stuff. But the relationships and seeing, especially watching troubled teens who are cutters,
Right.
or who have been abandoned or beaten, or the role reversal, or who are anxious, and some who want to kill their parents, for example. Those are the moments when you see the connection happen between the horse and the client.
Yeah.
And it is one of the most amazing things and the most calming things that you ever could see. Plus the music. And in this case, Tony had 3 students who he gave guitars to and actually played with them. We had one young lady, she was 21 years old, but she had a mentality of like an 8-year-old, technically speaking, if you will.
Right.
But she could play the blues. And she didn't know she could play the blues.
Yeah.
And she just picked up the phone and just started playing the blues. And Tony said, "You're playing the blues." Tony said, "Wait a minute, you're playing? What are you doing?" And so we had her on a Christmas show with us at the Italian American Club. And we played Santa Claus is Coming to Town. I was on acoustic, she was on acoustic, and of course, Tony making us all look good, and Bob Sachs, and I think Joe Darrow was there, and whatnot. And it was a moment that was just everything. And then watching children and watching even the grown folks and watching how they react with the horses is just amazing. And I would love to see all of those nonprofits be supported.
Yeah.
All of them. And to be supported, one, and also to be expanded.
Yeah.
Because mental health, and of course the government stepped in and said, "Oh, there's so much, yeah, I don't need that." But it is so needed.
Absolutely.
And so that would be one of my quests to see the horse therapy just completely blow up.
How did that even? I mean, like that's just like.
Well,
equine therapy. Like, how did that even?
Well,
happen?
I also did caregiving as well.
Okay.
You know, for plenty of people in my family, the last limb being my mother, and from the caregiving aspect, and then coming here and seeing the need, because Tony and I have always done things for education and veterans and all the rest of that, and we wanted to get involved with all of that. And the first company we were with, we actually had our music program.
Okay.
We had a music program that we actually did, which was really, really cool, to get the kids to settle down and say, "What's your favorite thing? What kind of music? Why do you?" and so forth, beside the other arts. And then we would do arts and crafts as well.
Yeah.
And so it was such a fun thing. And we did a Christmas show that was absolutely wonderful. And in fact, we had a family of 5 boys who were like pit bulls. They would jump each other and beat each other up all the time. And we would have to take them and literally restrain them, because they would, they had so many things going on. Their mom was the only one there with them. And so for this particular Christmas, I asked him, I said, "Do you all know who Jose Feliciano is?" And they said, "No, who is that?" And I said, "You need to know Jose Feliciano." So I had them sit down, listen, read, and everything else. So the oldest one presented the verbal presentation, and then they all played instruments and sang to a track that Tony put together of Jose Feliciano singing Feliz Navidad and all the rest of that, and put that track together. And they got up there, and their mother said, "Oh my God, this is the first time they've ever been able to stand together."
Oh, wow.
And do anything. She was in tears. Music transforms everything, and that's the only sad part about all of this, going through this right now, because music is the most soothing thing in the whole wide world, and live music takes you right there. But I know with all the genius that we all are, that with all the toys and bells and whistles that we have, and like Ryan Baker and so many others are out there doing it right now, that would continue on. Because plus, with YouTube and everything else, you can get that beautiful energy and all that wonderfulness. So that's really what kind of was transferred us into, or actually transcended us into being mental health providers. And it's not an easy gig. It's not an easy gig at all. And the reports that are long, the time is long, but to have that hour and watch people with those horses is the most amazing experience you ever did want to see.
Yeah.
And so that is one of my greatest things. And then the musical side of things, then, of course, presenting a beautiful concert with the elements of Phyllis Hyman and Angela Bofield and Jean Carn and the kudu groups and everything else during that period of time that is left behind, that music that's left behind, because, nobody, really wants to tap in on it. But it's beautiful music. And it's uplifting music.
Yeah.
And it's that musically wise, that is the piece. And we won't even talk about, which of course Phyllis was also, before it was all said and done, a part of Philadelphia International.
Right.
That's another music piece that has not been tapped into.
But that hasn't really been like exploited in the way that like other time periods or other.
Right, and it's huge. It obviously it revived Lou Rawls' career with. You're never find and all that kind of, all these guys. I mean, just huge. And the other thing in regards to it too is, when you go back and you listen to MFSB, and you listen to the 3 Degrees, and you listen, you hit all of them, all the Harold Melvin, Teddy Perry, that whole piece, huge.
Yeah.
And it needs to really have its feet back up. Don't you all take that? I'm saying it first.
It's documented. It's documented. So you can send that cease and desist.
So you got to cease it. You talk about it, everything else, and just do it. But we have many charts on a lot of that.
Yeah.
And so so in doing that, I'm looking forward to being able to present that in the way that would motivate and excite.
And I think a lot of those artists are still around and still doing their thing.
Yes, a lot of them are still traveling and doing all that other good stuff. And but the presentation, like in Los Angeles, we had a radio station, KJLH. Kindness, Joy, Love, and Happiness, which John Lamar Hill from Angeles Funeral Home. Angeles Funeral Home, when it came from San Diego and relocated in Los Angeles, became the community staple with the radio station.
Okay.
And so a dear, dear friend of ours, Barry Tate Jr.
Sorry, I don't mean to laugh. That's just
no, it's
Hollywood.
okay.
Even
it is.
The funeral home has a media sponsor.
Well, they were the ones, it was because of that, because of Barry's dad, Barrington Tate Sr., for his love of jazz and music. He was the one who actually really, talked to John Lamar Hill and said, this could be a huge community effort. Plus, we'd have a great jazz station. And out of that, we ended up with KJLH.
Okay.
And KJLH was the one that broke Phyllis Hyman, Jean Carn, Grover Washington, all of them in the West Coast piece, you see. And on top of that, and then when Earth, Wind & Fire came out with their album that Love Is Life was on, and that was almost like an anthem that came up. And during that time, we had all that great, great music. Yeah. And Larry, are you listening? Larry Carroll, who was a part of that as well. It was a great community piece.
Yeah.
Even though the transmitter and all that was in Compton and other radios, other powers that be did not want that to come in, because then it would just reach to everywhere.
Right.
But black-owned, black-operated radio station.
That's fantastic.
And of course, later on, Stevie Wonder purchased the radio station. But it was Barrington Tate Sr. who was the one who actually help flip the switch to get that going.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Oh yeah.
That's
yeah.
wonderful.
Oh yeah.
I wish we had more time to keep on talking.
No, I know we could just go forever.
It's so
I know.
nice we have this
Time
time
together.
But listen, so unfortunately, Lisa's living room is on hiatus.
It's on hiatus like everybody else. Yeah.
But so, in terms of keeping up with what Lisa's doing, where can our listeners find your schedule?
Quite naturally, of course, Facebook, of course. Also, Reverb Nation is still up and running, everybody, so you can always check Reverb Nation. And then quite naturally, we're always on the calendar for the dispensary.
Yeah.
And I'm also looking forward, which was also rescheduled, to doing a wonderful performance with Michael Grimm from our wonderful Michael Grimm at the Myron's Cabaret coming up. And speaking of that, I want everybody to know too, the Composer Showcase, which I've had the great opportunity of performing for twice, once with Dennis Blair and also for Ann Parente and Quinn Rivers. Absolutely fantastic. When it comes back, I think it's coming, it was scheduled to come back in April, but whenever the Composer Showcase with Keith Thompson comes up, it starts at 10:30. Come on down and check it out, because it's original songs, and believe me, your heart and soul will be filled up, honey, once the time you walk out of there.
Yeah,
Oh,
well,
it's fantastic.
absolutely, and we'll keep you up to date on what Lisa's doing
Yes.
on our website,
Yes.
jordanvanhaslow.com/showtime.
Showtime.
Thank you again.
Thank you
coming
again
on
for
down.
having me.
Absolutely, it's always a pleasure. Hope you come down again.
Absolutely.
And thank you all for listening to Showtime with Jordan Van Haslow and Friends on Hot 702.5 FM. I'll chat with you next week. Bye.
Bye.